Hello, everyone. It's the Cricket Connoisseur here, and welcome to episode 16 of the TCC Talks podcast. Now, today I'm joined by someone who'll be very familiar to any fans of Leicestershire County Cricket Club out there. It is none other than the leading run scorer of the 2019 County Championship Division 2, Mr. Hassan Azad. So, first things first, Hassan, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast today. How's your day been so far, mate?
Thanks, Aaron. It's nice to be here. The day's been lovely. It's about 30 degrees outside, sun's shining, nothing but blue skies. So just a shame that we can't play cricket, but hopefully that'll be put right in the next month or so.
Well, yeah, exactly. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's been an absolutely gorgeous day. I think we've got some thunderstorms on the weekend, though, so might get a bit shoddy towards the end of the week.
Well, it's almost a bit comforting when it rains because then at least you're not missing out on cricket.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, my my aunt says the same thing, actually. She likes it when it rains when there's no cricket on. But yeah, Hassan, to kind of kickstart this podcast, really, I thought we'd start right at the beginning of your cricketing journey. So what is your first ever memory of cricket, either watching or playing the game?
My first memory of... It's a bit of an odd question because I've been playing cricket for as long as I can remember. So it's not one specific memory. But I've been told that my dad had me playing as soon as I could walk. So he had a pitch built in our backyard out of concrete. He was a teacher in a cadet college, so we lived in staff quarters, and he had like a little backyard, and he had a concrete slab built in there for me to train on since I was about 3 years old. So yeah, as far as back as I can remember, cricket's been a big part of my life.
That's incredible. That's very, very early. I think that might actually be the earliest of anyone I've had on the podcast so far.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. So was your dad a big influence back then? I'm guessing that he obviously wanted to kickstart your cricket journey.
Yeah, he has been, and he continues to be to this day. I think his influence is what's motivated me more than any one single factor. Yeah, I wouldn't have been here today without his presence there.
Oh, that's lovely to hear, definitely. And also good to hear that your family supported you. That's obviously a massive, massive factor for any really major sportsman. But other than your family, who else were your major careers? Because obviously you hail from Pakistan, a country which is known for producing magnificent cricketers. Who did you really look up to back then?
I think every Pakistani left-hander at the time looked up to Saeed Anwar growing up. But ever since I broke, ever since I can remember, I've been a huge fan of Kumar Sangakkara.
Nice choice, nice choice.
Yeah, he's so good to watch. Like, it's just silky. It's not just because of how many runs he scores, and obviously he's a prolific run scorer, but it's the manner in which he scores them. And yeah, so my earliest memories are of ever since I was 9 or 10, just watching like compilations of Sangakkara cover drives on YouTube, such as like romantic music. So yeah, proper fanboying.
And no problem with that. Kumar, I believe he's the 6th leading run scorer in Test match of all time. I mean, just a legend of the game in every single facet of the word, really. And Saeed Anwar, I like that choice. I really, really like that choice. I don't think he gets enough attention, really, from international fans, because he was brilliant in the early 2000s, wasn't he? Just really good, prolific run scorer, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a subcontinental style of play where I think he stood on leg stump and played everything through point, and then anything that's straight onto the leg side, he picked up over the leg side. And yeah, he had all the shots. I think he's probably one of the first important limited overs cricketers for Pakistan in the manner that he scored. I don't remember too much of him apart from those very early memories because he retired whilst I was still quite young. But yeah, it was good to have someone like that to sort of look up to. And I think that's one of the main reasons my dad wanted me to be a left-hander.
Well, yeah, fair enough. And as I said, yeah, it's nice to actually talk about Saeed Anwar. I mean, not someone who usually pops up. So yeah, great inspirations, and obviously Kumar. But yeah, so back then you're still in Pakistan. Now, I was reading an article the other day, I believe it was on Cricinfo or Wisden, that you played against Babar Azam at under 15 level. How do you look back on that occasion, knowing where some of the players in that under 15s team have gone on to?
Well, It's an odd one. My main memories of that day are just chasing leather all over the place. I think we played against him in an under-16s game. So I think I was 14, uh, and we were playing at the National Stadium. It was a 40-over game, and he got 165 not out of 40 overs, just launching balls into the second tier of National Stadium, Karachi. So that was our first encounter against him, and yeah, quite lucky actually that managed to get into the under-15s, the Pakistan under-15 side, and go on tour to the West Indies. And Babar Azam was the captain, so I learned quite a lot from watching how he went about his business, like a class act even from that very young age. And yeah, he was always going to be big, and it's good to see that he's made it count and converted that talent into one of the I think one of the best batsmen that Pakistan's produced.
Yeah, definitely. Got an absolutely magnificent cover drive, hasn't he, Babar? Just
Yeah,
knack of gaining runs.
yeah,
So
just immaculate, and it was the same back then. I think that's the one shot that hasn't changed. There's some things in his technique that he's tinkered with over the years, but that's the one constant that playing it well, just that timing it perfectly through extra cover. It's always been there.
yeah, we could talk about Babar for hours, can we? He's a
Yeah.
magnificent, magnificent player. But yeah, well, shortly after that, really, you moved to England. You moved to Mansfield and then Leicester. What do you think the biggest difference was between playing cricket in Pakistan and playing cricket in England?
Um, I think at the time, well, Pakistan thrives on limited overs cricket, especially at the club level and the youth level. So before I came to England, I hadn't played a single game over 50 overs. So I
Wow.
think I moved when I was 15. The longest game I played was 50 overs. Most cricket was 40 overs. Actually, most cricket was about 25 overs. And then you had a few T20s, and very rarely, if you got to play a 40-over game, that was a rare occasion. So moving from there to the UK, where even at 15s, I think the first year that I was here, I played a couple of under 17s games in two-day cricket, and it's just a completely different manner of approaching things. Um, one of my earliest memories of playing cricket in England is playing a 50-over game against Lancashire under 15s, getting 11 or 4 balls in a 50-over game, just hitting 3 boundaries and trying to launch the next one, a good length ball over point off the 4th ball, and playing it onto my stumps, and the coach having a word with me afterwards saying, "You do realize there's so much longer to bat," and me just like shrugging my shoulders because that's the only way I'd been encouraged to play before. The other major difference is I grew up in Karachi, and in Karachi you had about 10 overs of seam. They had to put in a rule saying they had to bowl 10 overs of seam in the power plays, because otherwise you just bowl 50 overs of spin. So the idea was when you had the 10 overs of seam on a flat slow deck, you try to take on the bowlers as much as possible. Whereas it's quite different here. The seamers are more of an aggressive option, whereas over there, that was a time where you had to score the bulk of your runs because it was death by spin after the 10th over.
So what influenced your change in play style, really? Because you went from, as you mentioned, being a really fast, free-flowing batsman to becoming a lot more gritty, a lot more stubborn, a lot more resolute. I mean, your strike rate 41.57 is pretty much like Jeff Boycott. So what actually influenced that change?
Well, I think for the first thing that happened is I found out pretty quickly that that's not the best way for me to score runs in England. It might have worked in Pakistan. Yeah. So in 50-over cricket, I still had a reputation in Pakistan for like taking my time and batting through the innings. But over here, it became sort of the method that I could score runs with, and a massive influence on that front were the coaches at Notts, where I was on the academy. So they figured out pretty quickly what my strengths were going to be, and how I needed to go about to get my runs. The other thing that influenced that sort of journey is that I wasn't as strong physically as some of the other boys here. And so I had to sort of work a lot harder for my runs. It typically took me, I think, in a one-day game, it would take me about 40 overs to get to 100 on a good day, whereas some of the players might get there a lot quicker. So yeah, basically, I found that my strength in the longer format was just passing time, and coming here and just settling into that routine of long format cricket is really what enabled me to come upon that method.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's worked well for me.
Yeah. Well, yes. Let's talk about that. Talk about the 2019 Division 2 season. I mean, to say breakout is an understatement. It was absolutely incredible. 1,189 runs, 54.04 average. Leading run scorer, you beat Marnus Labuschagne, which is a massive achievement. Really interesting stat as well. You faced the second most balls out of anybody in Championship cricket. You're only second behind Dom Sibley. So how would you describe that 2019 season?
Mate, it's more than a dream come true. I think I was pinching myself after every game, just expecting to wake up at any instant. But it kept going, and game after game, like things kept happening for me. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, first of all, because obviously it was a late entry into first class cricket. For a long time, I thought the door was completely closed. But to get that opportunity, and to get that opportunity at the age of 25 is rare. So I think I'm really grateful to the coaching staff at Leicestershire who sort of gave me that go, and things just took off. And I think the main thing for me during that season was try to keep stay in the present and keep focusing on the next game. And at the end of the season, you look back and it's the stats worked out nicely. But whilst it was happening, I was just trying to stay level, stay in the moment, and keep going from game to game with the same approach.
Well, that is incredible. You mentioned just there the coaching staff, Paul Nixon. He's a wonderful coach. How much of an influence has he had on you?
Massive amounts. I think one of the key elements of coaching nowadays is man management.
Yeah.
So by the time you get up to the professional game, most people know how the game works, and so like tinkering with that can sometimes work the other way. But I think the main thing that Nico is really good at is recognizing what needs to be said to a particular player. So for me, stepping up a level into first class cricket, I needed someone to tell me that I was good enough. I needed someone to give me that opportunity and say that they were going to back me. And I think the first game that I played against Sussex, I was waiting to go in at 3, dark cloudy conditions. I think it was Ollie Robinson and Chris Jordan bowling. Two very good bowlers, and like I hadn't faced a bowling attack like that ever before. So I needed a pat on the back as I was waiting. I think Nico came up to me with a cup of tea and a couple of hand warmers, and he said some words that really stuck with me. He said, "You can't control anything that's going to happen after that wicket falls. So why would you worry about it? Just enjoy the game as it's happening, and when the time comes, you'll find out if you're good enough. And I'm telling you that you're good enough." And I think that really gave me a massive boost in confidence. It like settled me right down, and I'm suddenly going from thinking what's going to happen now to, well, I mean, the coach has just told me that I'm good enough, so he's seen plenty of cricket. Maybe I should believe him. So that's something that I needed to hear at the time, and it really helped me in that game and then moving forwards as well.
Well, yeah, and it certainly paid off. That faith put in you by Paul. I mean, well, we've already just mentioned the stats. It was a ridiculously good season. You should be immensely proud of it. Really should be.
The other thing I should also mention is like getting that opportunity at the top of the order. A lot of times, people get their opportunity lower down the order, and it meant a massive amount for me to be given that opportunity at the top of the order from the very start, because it told me that the management trusted me to be able to take on the brunt of the bowling attack. So yeah, I'm massively. That's another major factor, because that's the only place I've ever played. So it's wonderful to be able to go into a position where I felt comfortable.
Well, yeah, definitely. And well, yeah, as I said, you warranted your place with all of those runs. But you mentioned there that is your preferred place, isn't it? Opening the batting, being that kind of foundation at the top of the innings. How do you keep your concentration? How do you personally just contain that, maintain, sorry, that state of focus, ball after ball, session after session? How do you do that personally?
I think it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because it's taken me years to find a method that works for me. But once I have a method, once I know what my strengths and weaknesses are, then it takes away a lot of the mental work, because that's all gone. That's all happening in the background, because I know exactly what my strengths are game in, game out. I don't have to think about any of that, which means that the work that my brain has to do is a lot lower than it would have been 2 years ago, where I'm trying to think, all right, what am I going to do if it's in this area? What am I going to do if he bowls it short? What am I going to do if he bowls it full and wide? Am I going for the drive? Am I not? But having been in those positions and sort of coming into the game in a place where I've already worked out a lot of those things, a lot of the mental work's already happened in the background and behind the scenes. So when I'm actually playing, it's just a case of just almost like leaving it on autopilot and letting things happen, which means that I can go on for a lot longer, because it's not as strenuous having to think about stuff.
Well, yeah, exactly, definitely. But well, away from the crease though, let's say I don't know, let's say in a game you get out for a duck, for example. You have a couple of bad games, okay? How would you personally deal with, I don't know, the disappointment of that and the pressures that kind of come with that poor run? And how would you maintain that even keel with your cricket?
That's a really good question, and something that not many people ask, but I think it's such an important question to answer for any sort of longevity in cricket, which is a very mentally strenuous sport, because it can get on top of you. The one thing that I tell any young cricketer coming up, and something that I wish I could have told myself when I was younger, is you've got to have a degree of perspective,
Yep.
and that means having a life outside. For me, that means having a life outside of cricket. So personally, my main mode of coping with the ups and downs of cricket is to think of it as something that happens at a cricket ground. It shouldn't come into my life outside of cricket. So whilst I'm at the ground, I'll think about what I can do to make myself better, what I can do to counter any deficiencies in my technique. Once I'm home, I'm doing something else. So it's important for me to have interests outside of cricket, and that's where like I play other sports, I'll do other activities. There's a bunch of other stuff that you can do to meet other people. I think it's important to have lots of different social circles, and it really helps to have people who've never heard of cricket around you, because they don't know how well you've done. You can say, I've got out for a duck today, and to them it means nothing. So it's good to be in that sort of environment, I think, and that's something I recommend to anyone.
Yeah, it's great advice. And as you touched upon there, I have to bring this up because I saw it in the Wisdom article. You said about the different
Right, I think I
social
know where it's
circle
going.
begins with a Q. Yes.
Yeah.
The Quidditch, which I didn't even know you could do as a sport. How on
Yeah,
earth
so
did you get into that?
well, it's the same as anything. So I went to uni after I got released by Knots. I went to uni, and uni is a time of like self-discovery for a lot of people. And I came upon obviously a huge Harry Potter fan. Loved the books, loved the movies. So I went to the Harry Potter Society, and some very lovely people there who I'm friends with. Like I still keep in touch with all of them. We still have catch-ups on Zoom. And one of the people there sort of convinced me to come to one Quidditch session, and like I didn't know what I was doing there, but I said, you know what, I like you guys. I'll come along. It'll be a laugh. But once you get there and you start to once you start to getting into the competition element, it's actually really fun. It's a pretty chaotic game. Like there's balls flying around everywhere. There are things happening. It's the one thing that I fell in love with Quidditch about was that no one took it seriously. Everyone was out there trying to have a good time. No one, you can't take yourself seriously whilst you have a broomstick between your legs. So uh, it's it's a good opportunity to let go of your ego as well. And I think so I really enjoyed my time playing Quidditch. Uh, I think one of the stories that often gets a few laughs is when I injured myself playing Quidditch. Uh,
Oh,
so it's a full contact sport. I got rugby tackled playing in a tournament, and I sort of twisted my knee. Turned up to training the day after, and our head coach at uni, Russell Cobb. This is about a month before the season. He's like, "Haas, what have you done?" It's like, "You're going to be out for a few weeks now. Like, you can't play with us. We had a preseason tour coming up. Like, what happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was playing football and someone slide tackled me. I don't know what to do about it." But
oh my goodness.
I never told Kobe. I don't think he knows to this day. So
Really? Did you never tell
well,
him?
I hope he's not watching any podcasts because could be in
Oh.
some trouble. I think I'm beyond his influence now. I've left uni. He can't drop me now. So
Yeah, exactly. But
safe time
yeah,
for it to come out.
yeah, that was a funny story. It's a unique story as well. I don't think many other cricketers would have got injured playing Quidditch. But what else other than Quidditch? What do you do outside of the game now to kind of just relax,
Um,
really?
well, normally, well, I'm really into my photography. So that's my one hobby that I've stuck with over the years. I have lots of other hobbies which I pick up and then because it's just like trying to give things a go. Another one that I've done for a couple of years now is salsa. That's obviously
The
stopped
dance,
now
not
because of
the
yeah.
sauce.
Well, both. Why not? Like I love cooking as well, so I love trying new recipes. Love trying to experiment with the different ingredients. But salsa dancing has been really good. It allows you to go outside and meet people who've never heard of cricket. Meet lots of interesting people from all walks of life, and it's actually quite good to like. I love the music. Um, I'm not a rhythmical person at all. I'm not a musical person, so it's a little bit of practice with that gets the feet going, gets me helps with the coordination a little bit. But yeah, it's just nice to experiment and do lots of different stuff. Um, whilst I was at uni, I joined the surfing society, which my housemate, one of my best mates, Timmy, he got me involved. So basically, I think the key is to be open-minded, and yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah, that's good
It's helped me
advice
with
for
my
anything
cricket
in life,
tackling. Mm.
isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, just do it. Definitely.
Mm.
I'll definitely agree with that. But yeah, also this is kind of off topic, but have you completed your masters now in chemical engineering?
Yes,
Or
I finished that last year, about mid-June. So
congratulations for
about
that, by the
halfway
way.
through the season. Yeah, so that happened. We were playing Derbyshire on the day of our deadline, so that was a long day. We had a day in the dirt. I'm glad that we finished early that day because it meant that I could actually have my dissertation in on time. I think 2 minutes before the deadline. So really handy that we got a couple of extra hours to do that.
Yeah, so I'm guessing if you hadn't chosen to go down the pathway of professional cricket, would you have gone into that area then?
Yes, I think chemical engineering is quite a broad field, but I would have definitely liked to do something related to engineering. I discovered in my latter years of my degree that my interests sort of lay towards food engineering and some sort of biological engineering, more so than the traditional process industries, which are more based towards petroleum. Um, and yeah, so there's a huge shift towards clean energy, um, and yeah, that's more sort of the direction I would have wanted to take. But hopefully, there will be time to do that in due course.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, stick to the cricket. Stick to the cricket, please, for the sake of the Leicestershire fans. But yeah, what are your future aspirations in the game then? Because was it the Telegraph? It was a newspaper. They were tipping you to be an England player in the future. Is that something that you've got on your mind? Is that a goal that you would like to achieve, or are you thinking of something different?
Absolutely. I think any cricketer, like for me personally, that's the ultimate ambition, to play cricket for England. But as I've said before, I think in cricket you can't let things you can't get too far ahead of yourself. As soon as you start thinking about where you want to be, you lose sight of where you are, and what you need to do to get there. So I'm very much a process-based person. I'll keep focusing on my daily routines, the stuff that I need to do to keep improving, and then hopefully, if the opportunity arises, I'll be ready to take it up. But yeah, I think cricket's a funny game because you can't. It bites you when you're not looking.
Yes.
So it can sort of sneak up on you. So you can't really get too far ahead of yourself. I think it's definitely a case of staying in the moment, staying in the present, focusing on what you can do, and then letting the rest take care of itself.
It's very interesting you say that. Actually, I was listening to the Spin Badger podcast with Josh Poysden, and he was he had Chris Green, the spinner, on. He was the exact same same mentality. Really, he said that he'd spoken to psychologists, and it's called trusting the process. That's a very interesting mindset to have. So yeah, very mature as well. Definitely a great way of not getting ahead of yourself in the game. But to wrap up this podcast now, Hassan, I think you've been absolutely amazing. It's been a great podcast. What advice would you give to any aspiring cricketers out there? So let's say, I don't know, you've got a teenager out there who's just trying to find their feet in the game. What advice would you give to them for the next stages of their cricketing journey?
I think the best thing that I can tell anyone, any young cricketer, is to keep enjoying the game. Remember why you play. If as soon as you start focusing on statistical milestones or team selections, and you lose sight of the reason you play the game, that's where things start to go badly. And from my personal experience, like I got released from Notts when I was 20. That left me in a terrible place because I found myself in a place where I wasn't enjoying the game. I didn't know why I played, and that was affecting my performances. So it all goes hand in hand. My main message would be to just keep remembering why you play and treat it as a game. Don't let it take over your life.
Well, yeah, definitely. Very wise words there. Very, very wise, and great advice for any young cricketers out there. Please do take that on board. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up episode 16 of the podcast. Really, Hassan, have you got any kind of last words to say? Any social media to plug, for example?
Oh no, I'm all good, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Aaron, and all the best for the future with your podcast.
Same with you, unless it's against Warwickshire. Yeah, try not to get too many centuries against us. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the podcast. Thank you to everyone else listened. And as always, guys, enjoy the rest of your day.